Hello, hello, good evening, good late afternoon, depending on where you are on this wonderful Saturday stream. I apologize for running a little late. I thought we were going to be here and ready at 5, but life happens. So what we are going to do today is we are expanding upon the base of a stream I made for for Valentine's Day. I showed everybody how to make fettuccine Alfredo, and I talked about variations thereon. And tonight's variation is going to be Fettuccine Alfredo with shrimp and mushrooms. It's a lovely recipe. The shrimp goes so well with the Parmesan cheese sauce that's on the Alfredo, and the mushrooms blend in as well too. Aside from the shrimp version, which is probably my favorite, the next version from that would be chicken. I love chicken mushroom Alfredo. Oh, so good. I do a lot more seasoning on the chicken than I do on the shrimp. The shrimp and mushrooms are pretty much just left to themselves, versus the chicken, which I season up quite a bit. Well, for me, I use an appropriate amount of herbs and saute it and then add it into the Alfredo, and it's just yummy. This is one of those recipes that is incredibly simple to make, but it really seems like you've been slaving, and that's always fun, isn't it? You got to have a few of those recipes when you're going to do any hosting, when at a minute's notice someone comes into town, or your spouse calls you up, or your significant other and says, hey, I'm bringing home my boss from the office for dinner, is that okay? And you can't think of something that you can do. Well, you can make fettuccine Alfredo, and you can leave it as is. Put some vegetables in it if you want. Some steamed broccoli goes really nice. You can throw in sweet peas, and then have that be a vegetarian version, or you can add in the meat, and the meat added in, whether it is salmon or shrimp or chicken or beef, it makes it a little more complete, and it makes it a meal. So I have got a big bunch of water boiling in preparation of having to cook the fettuccine, and I am making a big batch because the last batch I made for Valentine's Day just didn't last very long. And let's see, it doesn't say how many people it serves. I suspect 4. Yeah. Well, that's not going to be enough. I don't like cooking just for 4. We have 4 people here at the house, but one of them cannot eat it because she cannot have dairy. The other one will not eat it because he thinks of pasta as a side dish, unless it's spaghetti. Spaghetti isn't a side dish to him, but all other kinds of pasta are. Now I'm just following the box directions for this, and I'm taking 2 no-name brand fettuccine. You can make your own fettuccine if you're into that. You can buy fettuccine that is already, you just need to drop it in the water. It's soft, it's not been dried, and you can buy that in grocery stores now too. That tastes fabulous. Fresh pasta is always a little better than the dried pasta, but the dried pasta is pretty darn tasty too. So why make more work for yourself if you don't have to? This is called a pasta fork. See? Interestingly, this little hole here in it, that actually measures out a single serving of spaghetti. So if you are ever at a quandary of how much that is supposed to be, if you buy yourself a pasta fork, it will usually show you. There are also pasta measures, but I've never really controlled it that much. So I'm gonna get this boiling, and it is, I believe, about 9 minutes on the directions. Yep, 9 to 11 minutes. You want your pasta to be what they call al dente, which means soft, but it still has a little resistance to the tooth. That's what al dente means, is to the tooth. And so you'll probably, on a range between 9 and 11, when they give you that range, you're probably looking at doing about 10 minutes cooking. And unfortunately, my newest little thing that I got for stream isn't here yet. I got a hedgehog timer, which is a cute little thing that's shaped like a little brown hedgehog, and you go and you set the time on it, and it would just sit here and it would go tick, 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 and rotate around as it was timing. And how cute is that? Anyway, so we get this started, and because my burner is not quite big enough to do everything on at the same time, I am going to babble a bit. You can. Hey, MPH, welcome in. Welcome in. It's been a while since I've seen you. You've been doing okay? Hi, Kate. How are you doing? I hope you're eating ice cream for this. I am waiting for the pasta to cook. Last time I did this, normally I don't show me cooking pasta because it's boring. But one thing you do have to remember is you do have to keep stirring it a bit when you're cooking it, or it will stick to itself. And you don't really want that, because it makes it so those particular strands don't cook at the same rate as the rest of them. And although some people put oil in the water, that's a great way to keep your pastas from sticking to each other. But unfortunately, in this particular dish, what thickens the sauce that goes on it is the starch that you have in your pasta. And if you put oil in it, that makes it so it doesn't work the same. So you'll basically not have a sauce come together. It will just be, you know, milk and butter that have been melted together, and they're just sort of runny all over your plate instead of a nice velvety sauce. So yeah, I love mint chocolate chip ice cream too. That is one of my favorites. Just absolutely fabulous. The mint, the mint within the little bits of chocolate. It's not too much chocolate. It's not too much mint. It's pretty much the perfect combination. Okay, the pasta is going here, and I guess I will talk about the next step, which is going to be taking a little bit of my stick of butter, which is unsalted butter. I like to add my own salt to whatever it is that I'm cooking. I don't want to have someone else decide how much sodium I have as an intake. That's important for my mother, and it's also just sort of a personal preference. You see unsalted butter a lot used for baking, and that's the same reason. It's to control the sodium content so that you don't have a flavor profile that comes up as salty. That's generally not one you have in baking. So what I will do is I will take some of this and I will saute the mushrooms I have here, and I will saute the shrimp that I have here, and when they are done, I will look to putting them aside for a moment in these spiffy winter bowls that I have that are 10-inch dishes. We use them a lot for salads, you know, nice big lunch salad or something. And I'm going to set that aside there and then begin making the fettuccine part that I can later add the shrimp and the mushrooms into. Now the noodles are boiling very nicely. They haven't been in long enough to be cooked. I can tell that by looking. They are still a dark gold in the middle, which means they are raw. And they are starting to get the softened noodle color, which is sort of a pale beige, around the edges. But they need to be considerably more pale beige than that. I am going to see if there's any way I can get my 2 pots on this small thing. Unfortunately, I don't know how to have little pots, so I've got big everything. Now I am going to take and cut a little knob of butter off, about 2 tablespoons basically, and I am going to put it in here and turn the heat on here to about a medium to medium high. That's in between the medium and medium high on your stove. And when that starts melting, I will put the mushrooms in and we will get started on cooking of mushrooms. They actually take longer to cook than the shrimp does. So it takes, on average, 10 minutes to cook a mushroom from this lovely raw state. And these are very fresh mushrooms. You can, I hope it focuses on us. Will it? Yeah, there we go. You can see that the gills are nice and tight. There's no shriveling to it. It's a really nice mushroom. It goes from this raw stage, which is kind of crunchy, and most people don't seem to enjoy raw mushrooms. I like mushrooms at every stage, but I do prefer them sauteed. Now, what does it take to make a mushroom be well cooked? About 10 minutes of time, honestly. But what happens is you start out with these mushrooms and you add them into the pan, and they will start to soften and they'll start losing size. They're going to shrink to about half their size. They're not going to ever really get browned. They will, however, turn a different color. They will get considerably softer. I have got some happy pasta here. And they will release that liquid into the pan, which you want to then cook it just a little bit longer, which is included in that 10-minute cooking time, to reduce the liquids that come out. So what you have is a very hyper condensed mushroom flavor. Yeah, a lot of my past programs are about mushrooms because I love them so much. I put them in everything I possibly can. So after I made the chicken noodle soup for the last stream, because I'd been craving it for a while, my father's said, "Oh, this is really good," which was lovely to hear him say that. And my mother, when I asked her if she enjoyed it, said, "It has rather more mushrooms than the usual." Her recipe never had mushrooms in it. It was just onions and celery and chicken and pasta. And I'm testing this to see at what stage it's in. And that is pretty close to perfect. So, I am now going to take my butter and put that over there, and take Pink Pig, whoa, and she orbits to the other side, because I am going to take this pot off and rest it over here, out of your view, on another of my bamboo cutting boards. They make great trivets, especially for big things. And that can sit there with the lid on and maybe cook a little bit further, but it is going to basically, it's going to stay warm, and then I can use the pasta from that when it's time. I probably should be using my faithful spatula for this, but I didn't ask for it, and I really don't need it. I could probably stir this with my fingers at this point. Okay, I am going to add the tiniest bit of pepper to this because my husband does not care much for pepper. So I am literally giving a single twist for over the whole thing with the pepper at ultra thin, ultra small grind. And I am going to put some parsley in here because parsley does add nice flavor to this. So I'm adding about a tablespoon of parsley, and I measure that in my hand. And what it is when I cut my hand slightly, a tablespoon will cover this area of my hand. Hey, look at that! My spatula has arrived. Thank you, sweetheart. So I am going to keep stirring these little things around while they cook. I could probably put a little bit more butter in here to help them, but I am going to save that for the shrimp. So we're going to cook these, and I have turned that off. I'm going to turn that temperature back up because I turned it lower for the pasta. And I have some fairly large shrimp here. You do not want to have salad shrimp that you're using in a major sweet recipe like this. Sorry, I read something and it inserted itself into my language there. You don't want to add tiny shrimp to a dish where it is supposed to be a shrimp dish. If you're going to make salad or you're going to do pasta maybe, you can add the salad shrimp to that. That is one thing if you're going to be like making a seafood manicotti or something where you're having to measure it out and make sure that when you have a tube that's only this big, you don't really want to put a shrimp in it that's about the same size. So you choose a very small shrimp, or you choose a salad shrimp and then add the other seafood with it that I'm, in my case, thinking of. You would add that to it to make it a mixed seafood enchilada, and I actually do intend to make that for you guys sometime soon. I am going to be making you guys seafood manicotti, and I may make a couple different manicotti fillings that day because I know several recipes. One that uses my chicken and mushroom sauce that I made in that lasagna. I'm really having a hard time talking today. Wow. I made a lasagna with that for you guys, and I know how to make an Alfredo version of manicotti that's absolutely fabulous, but I also know your standard red sauce with meat and all that. I usually add eggplant to it because I really enjoy eggplant. Now, if you've been noticing, it looks like I have less mushrooms in here, but I don't. It's the fact that the mushrooms are getting cooked. So they are shrinking in size and starting to emit a little bit of a liquid. And it is, it's going to give them a slightly brownish color as they soften and release that liquid. There are ways to actually brown mushrooms if you want to, but that really isn't the point here. Well, I understand, Kate, that nice husbands like yours can occasionally get upset when you accidentally change something or something happens by an oops. My husband got pretty upset with me when I toasted some hard drives, and I didn't do anything wrong. All I did is, in one case, I tried to go out and do a Google search, so I switched to Chrome, and the thing died. It just went, nope, and died. And another time, all I did was try to shut off the computer. And I used the appropriate things there with the start and all that, and what did I see? I got the blue screen of death. I gave the laptop a perfect amount of love. See, my brother and my husband both tell me the same things. I once had a computer that came from my brother, and it worked very well for him, and it was working really well for me, and I always turned my computer off every night, because that's what you did then, park the computer. Remember parking computers? Park the computer, and then I turned it off. And when I went to turn it on the next day when I got home from work, it didn't start. It went beep beep, and that was it. Blue screen, that's it. And I turned it on and off, and turned it on and off, and turned it on and off, and I could not figure out what was wrong with it for the life of me. And I called my brother, because he always said, do not touch the computer, don't try to figure it out yourself, you're not good at it. You have a way with computers, and it's not a good way. Well, so I called him up, and I said, the computer won't start, blue screen of death, and he says, okay, unplug the computer, plug it back in, turn it on and off, what happened, blue screen of death. Now, he ended up coming up, and it was a long drive. It was well over an hour drive, because he lived on the other end of the Seattle area, whereas I lived on the upper end, he was on the south. And he came up, I told him I'd buy him dinner, and he came up and sat down in the computer chair and looked at me, and he said, okay, so what have you done? I ran him through it again. And he said, all right. And then he said, did you tell the computer you loved it? And I could not believe my ears. I had no idea what was going on. I said, what do you mean tell the computer I love it? No. And he goes, well, there's your problem. You need to tell your computer that you love it every day. And I said, this is just insane. You've spotted something or something like that. And he says, no. He says, you just need to tell the computer you love it. And he put his arm across the top of the box, and he said, the CPU, and he said, it's okay. I'm sorry. She's just a big meanie. I love you. And then he clicked the on switch on the back of the thing, and the traitorous, possessed, demonic thing turned on and booted up with no problems at all. And my brother turned and looked at me and went, see? So, that is how computers treat me. And it's not me being mean to them or anything else. You know, I don't go around telling computers I love them. And, you know, honestly, I never see Andrew doing it either. Andrew is actually meaner to his laptop than I have ever been to any computer ever. Try to tell me I need to tell the computer I love it. They're wicked, I tell you, wicked. All right, these mushrooms are now at the point where they're releasing their liquid. You can see that they have started to turn darker than they were. They're also much smaller than they were. And yeah, it's been about 10 or 11 minutes, so they are actually just about done. That 2 tablespoons. Yeah, you can see now when I pull it apart here. Can you see the liquid that's down in there? The little drops here and there, like right here, there's liquid on the end. That's the liquid from the mushrooms. That's not grease, that's the water from inside the mushrooms. And once it starts releasing that, you're just about at the point when you're done. These will be soft and tender inside instead of that kind of vaguely styrofoamy texture. I'm sorry, if it's Tom's stream, I will believe what he says. When it is my stream, computers are possessed. And it's a war between them and us, and I'm not winning. All right, at this point, I am going to take one of our winter bowls. Aren't they cute? Aren't they cute? They have a little snowflakes around it, and they have the little snowmen, and they're lovely. I am going to take the mushrooms out now. And put them basically in a holding container. And I will now put that aside, or I'll just sit here and eat mushrooms while I'm cooking everything else. And that would be bad and wrong. So I am going to take a little bit more butter and put that in the pot. And turn the mushrooms to the side here, and cut open the second package of shrimp. And these are wild caught shrimp, and they are still frozen. So it's going to take a little longer than normal to cook them, but that's okay. Fresh shrimp is something that you're never ever going to see unless you happen to be getting your shrimp from a fisherman, where they've just got the live things out of the water. You'll find fresh shrimp then. Other than that, not ever. Everything is frozen. They freeze it where they catch it and bring it to you, and that is how they preserve it. Now I'm just basically knocking these little guys apart so that they will cook better. The thing about shrimp and any kind of shellfish that you cook in the frying pan, or really anywhere else, is that they never require as much cooking as most people seem to think. You can very easily go from where your shrimp is raw to all of a sudden your shrimp isn't raw, your shrimp is rubber. I'm gonna look at that because that looks suspicious. It is a black lump and I won't have it. It is part of a tail. So I'm going to remove that and plunk the shrimp back in. And let's get rid of that little piece. Okay, so basically if these were all the way thawed or whatever, you would be cooking these for just a few minutes per side. But because these are not thawed, and they will have to heat thaw them in the pan, and there's going to be a lot of liquid in here, which is fine. That goes to make shrimp flavor, that when we add it to the fettuccine, it is going to make the Alfredo sauce have the little bit of seafood through it too, with that flavor. Some people think that the way you tell that a shrimp is done is it's curled up. No, as you can see, they're already curled up, and these suckers are raw. What you need to do is they go from being slightly translucent. They have kind of a jelly-ish appearance to them. We have somebody at the door. Anyway, seafood, sorry, this is a little distracting. We have, when you have raw seafood, it has a translucent appearance to it. It's still white in the middle, but it's sort of a grayish clear color. And as it cooks, it will slowly turn opaque, which means it will turn white. And yay, we have a mysterious visitor. We have the hedgehog timer. Look at that. Isn't it cute? It's adorable. So, your shrimp will start out translucent and white with faint pink on the edges. And as it cooks, the pink will become more apparent and the translucence will slowly fade, so they're white with pink veining on it, and then have quite a bit of pink. And about at that point, you are done. When they turn opaque, when they're no longer in any part of them looking jelly-like, and the pink is clear on them so that you can see that they have pink sections, and your standard shrimp, if anybody were to depict one, is pink, and that is accurate. When it's cooked, it's that color. That is, as a matter of fact, here's another bit of babble as I try to take up the time while the shrimp is cooking. Shrimp, the pigments that are in the shrimp that turn them pink are what makes a flamingo pink. Because they eat shrimp, and if you were to give them a diet that did not have shrimp in it, they wouldn't be pink. So that is their primary diet, and you can see how much water has come off these shrimp. Their diet is primarily shrimp, so they pick up those pigments and they turn pink. Pretty shade of pink too. Anyway, these shrimp are nowhere near ready. You can see that they're somewhat starting to turn a little pink in places, and I will bring one closer up so you can see the pink in it. And it's just starting. There are areas where they're darker and lighter. It's just part of the whole variation. Tom told you that you have to be wise with your technology. I think you need to approach technology with a chair and whip, because it's out to get us. Trust me. Taking a little bit of water there to hydrate. So let's keep these cooking here, and they will be done shortly. I've got them where they're kind of stuck together, and as they cook, they're coming undone. So I am turning the shrimp this way and that to separate them. And if I must, do it by hand. Woo, these are starting to get hot. They still have a kind of jelly-like texture to them, which, aside from their appearance, lets me know these suckers are raw. It's not bad. You can actually eat shrimp raw. Shrimp sushi is actually quite tasty. And having them be frozen kills any kind of like little parasite or whatever they might have in them. Most sushi, even being raw, is frozen, and that's why. Tom and Andrew are correct. Why would you say that? I suspect suddenly I'm talking to Tom again. Andrew always gives me the whole line of husband is right, husband is right. It's not always true. No, but you get away with a lot because of that English accent. Well, you're not going to get sushi in Montana. You're going to have to come out here to Seattle to get it and get really good sushi. Although I'm pretty sure, actually, I've seen some programs about the restaurants in Vegas, and they have some sushi restaurants there that are fabulous too. I don't think I'm ever going to convince Andrew I'm setting this timer because I don't know what it's going to do. It's clicking. It's going click, 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 click. It's so cute. Anyway, I like to watch travel programs that talk about places, especially about their food. So I love programs like No Reservations with Anthony Bourdain. May he rest in peace. And Andrew Zimmern, who did Bizarre Foods. And most people, you know, watched it to see him eat bugs and weird things like that. But he also talked about a lot about the culture and, you know, what seems strange to us, you know, could be a beloved, you know, food to them. You know, they may be thinking about those June bugs out there to eat, and to them that is every bit of a fancy home recipe as, you know, your mother's fried chicken or your grandmother's meatloaf. So as you can see, the shrimp have given a lot of liquid, and they are also turning pink and curling tighter. They are also going opaque, which is what we want. But I am gonna wait till all of them are done because I have a few holdouts that were obviously hard frozen. Now, if you overcook a shrimp, you can still eat the shrimp. It'll be a little rubbery, but you know what? It'll still taste just as nice. So even if you do make a mistake and your shrimp isn't 100% tender, you know, you know, you have to chew all your food anyway. If it's a little extra chewy, it's a little extra chewy. Maybe it's not perfect, but it still tastes good. So, and you'll get better the next time you do it. So go ahead and try these recipes. And I do not yet have this recipe up in my Discord, but I will in fact put it up after stream. It was a little hectic here before stream, and it usually is, honestly, but it's extra hectic today. So I've got these little guys simmering in a little bit of butter and their own juice. I've got the mushrooms over here that when the shrimp are ready, I'm going to put them in there. And then we will start the sauce for the fettuccine. And I am checking on the fettuccine. Ooh, that's hot right now. And they are still very, very hot. Still steaming when I take the lid off the pot. And I say fight for the possession of the phone, Kate. That's what I say. Don't just give it back to him. So the shrimp is now almost done. I will have to test a piece of that next. Okay. Now, if you're going to be putting this into a sauce that you need to cook a little bit more, you'll want to leave the shrimp a little bit undercooked. But in this case, we don't want to. And this shrimp is perfect. It is opaque all the way through with just a little hint of pink. It is tender to the bite, but still has a little bit of crispness to it that says It's fresh seafood and it's lovely. And I am going to take and put these all on top of the mushrooms. Probably could just dump the whole thing in here. I might just do that because I do want that broth too that's formed in there. And that's actually what it is a shrimp broth, because you were cooking raw shrimp with butter. Okay, there's a little bit of shrimp tail. Let's get that out of there. And always keep up the inspection of your food as you're cooking it. Make sure you don't have any suspicious little spots in it. This is going to take a stick of butter, or very close to a stick of butter. And you just watch now at this point how fast this comes together, because it only takes a few minutes. So we take the butter, and we start it melting there. And the temperature is a little high. I don't want to brown the butter. I don't actually put it over here while I was thinking about it, because I really should have got the lid off this cream first. That was dumb of me. I don't know why I thought this was already open. So you take the butter, oh for God's sake, take the butter and you pull this off the table so you can use your shirt hem on it, because you can't grip it. All right, and you get the butter melting as it is, and then you want to add a couple cups of cream. And this is milk and cream together. It is half and half. So I like that better than either cream or milk. I use it together. And this is 1 quart or 32 ounces. And I need to bring that up to temperature. Now you don't want to boil this. If you boil your milk or scald your milk, there are recipes that call for that. Mostly they're baking dishes. But if you take your butter and you burn it, and you take your milk and you boil it, what you're going to have is you're going to form curds, and it's going to separate, and it'll just look nasty, and it won't taste very good either. So you want to make sure that your milk sauces don't actually boil. Boiling is bad, for milk at least. Okay, so I am going to wait for this to come up to heat now, and I have got grated Parmesan cheese. You can grate your own. If you get block Parmesan, you can do it. It's all kind of clumped up, so I'm going to loosen that while I'm talking. And it'll have more moisture in it. This is very dry, but that's fine. I mean, it's mostly used for Alfredo sauces in this house, and my father puts it on his spaghetti. Nobody else does. So it's mostly used for cooking. And when it comes dried like this, it has a tendency to stay a little more granular instead of going creamy, so you need to be very careful in how you heat it up. Parmesan is not a high-fat cheese, so yeah, butter can burn. It needs fat to be smooth. So if you're going to be adding it to a sauce, I mean, don't try to make this with non-fat milk or skim milk. This is not a dish to save your fats for. It is decadent and creamy and yummy, and it's an indulgence, honestly, but You know, they're finding out that even high-fat diets are not as bad for you as they thought they were. In some cases, you need low sugar and high fats and high protein, low carbs. The whole knowledge thing is coming out. It's always evolving. What one person says is healthy today, 5 years later, someone else says, oh no, what were they thinking? Mav says hello. Okay, hello. So we have got 32 ounces of cream and a stick of butter, just a little bit off of a stick of butter in here, and I am bringing it to temperature and thus reducing it a little bit. And again, this is only on a medium to medium high heat. Of course you can ask me a question. What do you want to know? If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't, I'll fudge it. Okay, you love chicken. I have heard that from Tom, that you are utterly in love with chicken. Okay. This is now warm. The milk is starting to steam, but I still want it to reduce a little bit before I put the pasta in it. Go ahead, ask your question. I'm just going to babble till you do. And I'm just stirring so nothing sticks to the bottom or anything like that. How do you make a good chicken pasta salad? Well, you're talking about hot or cold? I would start with choosing your style of pasta you want, penne pasta or rotini pasta makes good pasta salads. Can you do it like this? Pasta chicken salad. I would take and start with the pasta and cook that, drain it, rinse it, all of that, and I would take assorted vegetables. I would take some onion, lots of celery. I might put some olives in it as well, either black or green or both. Cut up cheese, and I think a mozzarella would go well with it. I think that it would work well with a cheddar if you like cheddar a lot. You could add a provolone cheese to it. And then I would take and saute your chicken in butter and put in parsley and sage and rosemary, maybe a little tarragon. And if you want to add garlic, you could add in a couple cloves of crushed garlic or some of the jarred garlic that they have that's minced that you can get in most grocery stores in their produce section now. And I would then and chop up some tomato to put it into your pasta salad, or use whole grape tomatoes or have cherry tomatoes. And then I would take and make a vinaigrette with oil and red wine vinegar, salt and pepper in it. I would put in some Dijon mustard and whip that up until the oil in it gets oxygenated and it thickens because of your whipping it. And I would pour that over the chicken and the pasta and vegetables and toss it. And you could either eat it right away or let it wait so it's semi-warm at that point. Or you could put it in the refrigerator and refrigerate it. Walnuts could go in it, or pecans. You could put pistachios in it if pistachios do it for you. All of those things would work. I'm not sure how my husband feels about pasta salads. I actually like them, but I don't know how he feels about them. It seems to be kind of an American thing, and some of those kind of surprise him. So this is starting to look nice and warm. So I am going to, at this point, take my pasta fork and bring my, bring my other dish a little closer. And I am going to start taking the pasta out of here, and I'm just lifting it with the pasta fork. I am not draining it because we want that starchy water. And you just put it into your pot here. You could probably actually drain this in a colander at this point, just as long as you dumped it pretty quickly, because yeah, you do want some of that pasta water, and I will clean up the edges later, I promise. Here we go. And as the pasta water comes in, it comes in with the starch in that, and it will start working on the milk reduction I've got in this. I actually need to try to grab the edges of this to make it so it doesn't quite all slip away. Let's move that spout out of the way. Get this a little closer. Not the most graceful of apparatus, but these noodles are still hot, so I don't really want to use my hand. I could send you a recipe if you'd like, a couple versions of a recipe, some variations if you'd like, Kate. I'd be happy to do it. And as you get more of your pasta out of your pasta water, you will notice that your pasta water is cloudy, and the cloudiness in that is the starch. So that comes from the wheat that this is made up of. And you can use gluten-free pasta if you wish. As I've said, you can use the pastas that are made with lentils now, or chickpeas, which adds protein in and of themselves. And there's a lot of good variations for people now that have all of their different dietary issues, and thank God for that, since I'm one that has a lot of dietary issues. Fortunately, neither gluten nor dairy is one of mine, so that's cool. I've got enough. I don't need any more. So now we basically take and start rotating this in the bowl, in the sauce here, and as the sauce heats and combines with it, it's going to get thicker because of the starch that's in it. And that sauce is already forming. And again, you do not want this to boil. I will start adding some Parmesan to it, and you want to add quite a bit. This is going to use about a cup of Parmesan cheese ground. So I'm going to add it a little incrementally because I don't want to have big clumps of it. So that is about half a cup there. And I'm just going to keep folding this over from different directions to mix the cheese in with the pasta, to mix the pasta in with the milk and butter. And this is how you actually thicken the classic Fettuccine Alfredo. It isn't made with a white sauce, a bechamel. There's no flour in this. You can. If you just can't get your sauce to thicken, you can definitely do that, but it's not necessary. If you use the right steps and have patience, you will have a nice thick creamy cheese sauce. And it is just a matter of continuing to heat it, continuing to stir it, and letting the starch from the noodles get in and thicken the sauce. And I have on purpose have a lot of pasta here. And this is a 4-inch thick, deep, I should say, saucepan. Can you get my autograph? Yes, I will give you an autographed version of my cookbook if you'd like one. So I will eventually. I'm still editing it and trying to take the mistakes out I'm finding. And I am hoping to get that available for sale soon. And I will be selling it through my merchandise site as an ebook. You can also, I'm finding out how I can get some hardcovers published, because I know that some people don't want to have an ebook version of a cookbook. They want to have an actual open the page, look at the thing. I can write my own notes on what I like and what I wanted to change cookbook. So that is something I would like to offer as well. And my merchandise site is underway, and I will be selling sweatshirts and hoodies and t-shirts, and there's also going to be mugs and pounders. I am making fettuccine alfredo with shrimp and mushrooms, and I have got the shrimp and mushrooms off to the side here. I've already sauteed them. I am now making the fettuccine rather awkwardly. You could also do this with tongs, but I'm using the pasta fork. And just stirring the pasta around in the milk and butter and getting the cheese to melt into it, using the starch to thicken it. And this one, like I said, when you use the commercial ground Parmesan cheese, it can actually get a little grainy looking, because it's a very dry cheese at that point. I have a lot of cookbooks too, lots of cookbooks. And I mean, I have shelves of them. I have boxes of them. I cannot even recover all of them from where they are at this point. And I'm hoping in the next place we move to that I can have an entire room just for my cooking. And I will have my hobbies and my various cookbooks and sources up so that I can use it and have a permanent cooking thing. Now I have got this the shrimp and the mushrooms. This is coming perilously close to a boil, which we don't want it to do. And I am going to start grabbing shrimp and mushrooms, which will be then incorporated into this. And this is, by the way, 2 pounds of shrimp and a pound of mushrooms and a stick of butter, tablespoon of parsley. It has got a little bit of pepper in it, doesn't have any salt yet. It's got a cup of Parmesan cheese that's grated, and it has 2 16-ounce boxes of fettuccine in it, and it has 32 ounces of half and half. And that's pretty much it. It's a really simple recipe here. It tastes so good. And like I've said before, when you are using a very simple recipe like fettuccine alfredo or pasta carbonara, you can't skimp on the quality of your ingredients, because that's what makes the dish, is the quality of those ingredients. And there's just nowhere to hide. If you use bad shrimp, if you use cheap milk, if you use, you know, whatever it is not going to be the same, because there's nothing to hide in here. There's no way to hide that you used bad ingredients. And as you can see, this is getting lovely and creamy. It's actually cooked now. I've just got to mix it together. And then we serve it. I am going to be adding this reserved sauce to the end when I actually package up our leftovers to help keep it liquid. Any leftovers that you have, you can easily recook this. You can heat it in the microwave, but I would add some more milk to it before you did, because it's going to thicken up a lot when it's in the refrigerator. The noodles will suck in the liquid. As you can see them doing here, it's coating them in a creamy sauce and looking lovely. Go for flavor always. Freshness is always important. You don't skimp. Is basically the message here. All right, so I'm going to put that aside and turn the heat off here, because it is ready to be photographed and dished up. And like I said, we're using big plates this time. So I'm going to take and serve this lovely sauce and shrimp and mushrooms and the pasta. And I know at some restaurants they'll take this and they'll put a pasta fork in it and twirl it around and make it look fancy. I'm more of the, it looks good and it tastes wonderful. The plating comes somewhat second. So I am going to make sure that this has a lot of the top ingredients for everybody to see, so they can see mushrooms and they can see shrimp. And they can see the sauce is creamy. Take some of the extra sauce and put that in here. And it's a nice thick sauce. And then I'm going to take my parsley, because it's always pretty, and sprinkle a little bit of parsley over the top. And we take a fork to make it inviting. And I give it to my husband to photograph. Meanwhile, I will begin serving up a second serving of this. And we've got a ton of noodles, so many shrimp, so much mushrooms, this lovely creamy sauce full of cheese. It's your basic lactose intolerant person's nightmare, but it is so perfect, honey. And you can go ahead and taste that and tell them that it's yummy. I'm sure nobody will be shocked. Oh, that's a pity. I think you could make a version of this with the oat milk and some of the vegan cheeses. They have vegan mozzarella I've seen. You could make it. It wouldn't be an Alfredo sauce, but it would be close. You could make it very similar to this. And you could maybe find vegan Parmesan. I'm sure they have it somewhere. They've been doing a real good job about making it so that people can get what they want and still have their lifestyle choices and their dietary choices. Okay, so I've got another fork here, and I've got this lovely dish of the Fettuccine Alfredo with shrimp and mushrooms, and I'm going to grab a mushroom, and I am going to grab a shrimp, and then I am going to turn this around and around against the side here and get it all wound up till I have a huge mouthful. Get you off there, you little on-clinger, and let you all look at this. Doesn't that look lovely and creamy and nice? Hedgepig has bigger eyes than she has mouth. Okay, the noodles are tender, still resistant to the teeth. The shrimp is at that perfect stage where they're soft but still crisp. The mushrooms are tender when you bite into them. The sauce is a lovely creaminess from the milk and the butter and from the Parmesan cheese. It is just so good. It's a killer recipe, and it is one that really doesn't take a lot, but it tastes like you either have sent out to a restaurant or you have slaved on it. And really the only thing you did that slaved is make sure that you had the best ingredients you could. Now, I want to thank everybody who came. I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate the comments, and people coming up to me on Twitch when they see me and saying, hey, I watched your VODs, they were great. And we are going to be rating someone, and I am looking and seeing who is on right now. And the plan was originally to raid Maverick in his stream, but he is not streaming. I am going to say right now, we'll catch Maverick next stream. This stream, I am going to go to Acidic Virus. He's a nice guy over in the UK, and he streams The Long Dark, and he's great fun to watch, and he appreciates food. So we're going to go raid Acidic Virus. I do hope you stick around for that, and we'll catch you next time on Tuesday. I have no idea what I'm going to cook yet, but I guarantee it's going to be tasty. So thank you all for coming. Go ahead and press the raid, honey. There's our raid sign for everybody. And we are ready to go. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.